She didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't even flinch when the cold barrel of a Glock 19 pressed hard against her cheekbone, metal biting into skin like a promise kept in the dark. The man behind the trigger grinned like he'd already won, like he'd done this before, like women with Navy SEAL tridents tattooed on their ribs were supposed to break when you put a gun to their face. "Any last words?" he asked. He expected tears. He expected her knees to buckle. He expected the usual dance of fear that men like him had been choreographing for women like her since the beginning of violence. What he got was silence. And what came after that silence, he never saw coming. Because the woman standing at the wrong end of that barrel wasn't some civilian caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was Reese Harding, 24 years old, 5'7" of lean muscle and controlled rage, the only female operator in DevGru Team 3, and she'd already counted every single one of his mistakes before he finished asking his question. But before we show you the moment she turned his own weapon into his worst nightmare, you need to understand how she got here. How a small town girl from Bozeman, Montana, ended up in a dying Nevada desert town with a gun to her face and her father's ghost riding shotgun. 36 hours earlier, Reese Harding's world had ended with a phone call. The call came at 03:47 on a Tuesday morning while she was running stadium stairs at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, pushing her body past the point where most people's minds tell them to quit. She'd been awake for 19 hours, fresh off a 72-hour training evolution that had broken 2 of the men in her unit. Her lungs were screaming, her quads were fire, her mind was ice. The phone buzzed in her pocket. She almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail like she did with 90% of the calls that came through during training cycles. But she looked at the screen. Unknown number, Nevada area code. Something in her gut twisted, the same instinct that had kept her alive in Kandahar, in Ramadi, in places where the wrong door meant a bullet or a bomb. She stopped mid-stride, sweat pouring down her face, blonde hair plastered to her skull, and answered, "Harding." "Miss Harding?" A woman's voice, official, careful, the kind of voice that's been trained to deliver bad news without cracking. "This is Deputy Lauren Tate with the Nye County Sheriff's Department in Nevada. I'm calling regarding your father, Master Chief William Harding." Reese's world stopped spinning. Not slowed, stopped. The stadium stairs disappeared. The base disappeared. Everything except that voice on the other end of the line. "What happened?" Reese's voice came out flat, controlled, the way it always did when the stakes were high and emotions were a liability. "I'm very sorry to inform you that your father was found deceased yesterday evening, approximately 15 miles outside Copper Valley. Initial investigation indicates a hunting accident. I know this is difficult, Miss Harding, but we'll need you to come identify the body and answer some questions." Hunting accident. 2 words that didn't make sense in the same sentence as William Phantom Harding. Her father hadn't hunted since 2009, said he'd done enough killing for 3 lifetimes and didn't need to add deer to the list. Said the only thing he wanted to shoot anymore was targets at the range and the breeze on his back porch. "When?" Reese asked. "We believe sometime Monday afternoon. A hiker found him Tuesday morning." "Where exactly?" "About a mile from an old mining operation called Silverback Mine. He was..." "I'll be there in 6 hours." Reese hung up before the deputy could finish. Stood there in the dark with her phone in her hand and her father's death sitting on her chest like a cinder block. William Harding, Phantom, Master Chief, the man who'd taught her to shoot when she was 8, to swim when she was 6, to hold her breath underwater for 4 minutes when she was 16. Six hours later, Reese's black Ford Raptor rolled into Copper Valley, Nevada, as the sun was climbing over the eastern ridge, turning the desert floor into a sheet of molten gold. Copper Valley wasn't much of a town. Population 412 according to the faded sign at the town line. One main street, a gas station, a diner with a flickering neon sign that read, Copper Ridge Cafe, a motel that looked like it had been built in 1952 and hadn't been updated since. The kind of place people pass through on their way to somewhere better. The kind of place where secrets went to die in the heat. Reese parked outside the Nye County Sheriff's substation, a squat, cinder-block building with bars on the windows and a flagpole out front flying the American flag at half-mast for someone who probably wasn't her father. She killed the engine and sat for 10 seconds, hands on the wheel, breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The way her father had taught her to control fear when she was 12 and scared of the dark. Fear is just data, baby girl, he'd said. Data about a threat. You don't run from data. You process it. You use it. You make it your weapon. She got out of the truck. The heat hit her like a wall. Dry, brutal. The kind of heat that sucked moisture out of your lungs with every breath. She was wearing dark jeans, a fitted olive green V-neck that showed the edge of her trident tattoo on her left ribs, and scuffed, tan combat boots. No jewelry except a black silicone bracelet on her left wrist that read, Phantom, 1963 to 2024. She'd made it that morning, hadn't taken it off since. Inside the station, a woman in a deputy's uniform stood behind a desk, mid-30s, blonde hair pulled back tight, tired eyes that had seen too much and believed too little. Miss Harding? The woman asked. That's me. Deputy Lauren Tate. We spoke on the phone. She extended her hand. Reese shook it. Firm grip, calluses, military handshake. You served, Reese said. Not a question. Army, 4 years. MP Corps. You? Navy, still in. Lauren's eyes flicked to the edge of the trident tattoo visible above Reese's collar. Something changed in her expression. Not quite respect, something closer to recognition. SEAL? Yeah, your father never mentioned that. You knew my father? Everyone in Copper Valley knew your father, Miss Harding. He's been here for 3 weeks. Spent most of that time asking questions. Reese's pulse kicked up a notch. What kind of questions? Lauren glanced toward the back office, where a closed door had a nameplate that read, Sheriff Clayton Hayes. She lowered her voice, the kind that made people nervous. Before Reese could press, the door opened. A man stepped out, late 50s, barrel-chested, buzz-cut gone gray, jaw like a cinder block. He had the look of someone who'd been a Marine once and never really stopped being one, even after the uniform came off. Sheriff Clayton Hayes. He looked at Reese the way men like him always looked at women like her, like he was trying to figure out if she was a problem or just another inconvenience. Miss Harding, his voice was gravel. Sheriff Hayes, sorry for your loss. Thank you. I'm sure Deputy Tate explained the situation. Your father was found near Silverback Mine, single gunshot wound to the chest. We recovered a rifle near the body. Looks like he was tracking an elk, lost his footing on some loose rock, weapon discharged. Tragic, but it happens. Reese studied him, his body language, his eyes, the way he kept his hands loose at his sides but his weight centered, ready to move. Old habits from old wars. My father hadn't hunted in 15 years, she said. That's so? That's so. Well, Hayes shifted his weight. Maybe he decided to pick it back up. Men do that sometimes. Get older, want to reconnect with things they used to love. Where's the rifle? Evidence locker. I want to see it. Can't allow that. Active investigation. Then I want to see where you found him. Hayes's jaw tightened. Miss Harding, I understand you're grieving, but this is a cut and dry accident. Best thing you can do is identify the body, make arrangements, and head home. Copper Valley isn't a place people stick around. Why's that? Because there's nothing here but sand and ghosts. Reese held his eyes. Blue against brown. Ice against stone. Then I should fit right in. She turned and walked out before he could respond. The Copper Valley Motor Lodge smelled like cigarettes and regret. Room 7 had a bed that sagged in the middle, a window with a view of the parking lot, and a shower that probably hadn't been cleaned since the Carter administration. Reese dropped her duffel on the bed and unzipped it with the precision of someone who'd packed under fire more times than she could count. Clothes, laptop, sealed envelope with her father's handwriting on the front, and beneath everything, wrapped in a black t-shirt, a Glock 19, and 3 spare magazines. She wasn't supposed to be carrying off-duty. Didn't care. She sat on the edge of the bed and opened the envelope. Inside, a single piece of paper. Her father's handwriting. Blocky, neat, the penmanship of a man who'd spent 35 years writing after-action reports and letters home to families of men who didn't make it back. Reese, if you're reading this, they got me. Don't trust Sheriff Hayes. Don't trust Ironclad Corporation. Don't go near Silverback Mine alone. Find Jack Cordell. He lives on Canyon Road, blue house, mailbox says Cordell. He knows everything. He'll help you, but this is your fight. He's old. You're not. Project Nightfall targets your team. Deployment in 72 hours. If you don't stop this, your entire unit walks into a kill zone. I came here because I couldn't let that happen. Because you've always been the mission I was never willing to fail. Trust your instincts. Finish this. Love you, baby girl. Dad Reese read it 3 times. Then she burned it in the bathroom sink with a lighter from her duffel, watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. She ran water over the ashes until they disappeared down the drain. No evidence, no trace. The only grief she'd allow herself tonight was the tremor in her hand as she closed her fist around the lighter. 1 second, 2, then she killed it. Mission first, emotions later. The Copper Ridge Cafe was the only place in town that looked like it still had a pulse. Neon sign in the window, pickup trucks in the lot, the smell of coffee and frying bacon drifting through the door. Reese walked in at 1900 hours. The bell above the door rang like it didn't want to be involved. Inside, a handful of locals sat at the counter and in booths along the walls. Construction workers, ranchers, men who worked with their hands and didn't talk much unless they had something worth saying. And in the back corner, 3 men in tactical clothing with no insignia. Clean-shaven, hard eyes, the kind of men who move through the world like they own the air around them. The heavy-set one with a jaw like a cinder block was watching Reese before she even sat down. His name was Travis Cole. She didn't know that yet, but she would. Reese took the booth nearest the back wall, eyes on every exit. A woman in her late 30s walked over, red hair pulled back, name tag that read, Sophia. Coffee? Black, fastest sandwich you've got. Sophia scribbled it down, paused. Passing through? Depends. On what? On whether this town wants to talk or keep pretending. Sophia's pen stopped moving. Something flickered behind her eyes. Not curiosity, fear. Most people don't stay long in Copper Valley. My father did, 3 weeks. Sophia looked at her different then, slower, like she was seeing a ghost standing behind Reese's face. You're Phantom's daughter. I am. Sophia swallowed, glanced at the 3 men in the corner who hadn't stopped watching, looked back at Reese. He was a good man. I'm sorry for what happened. What did happen? Hunting accident. That's what they said. Who's they? Sophia didn't answer, just brought the coffee and walked away too fast, like staying at Reese's table any longer might cost her something she couldn't afford to lose. Reese drank her coffee slowly, watching, waiting. The 3 men in the back hadn't stopped staring. She finished her sandwich, paid exact change, walked out. The parking lot was dark. Her truck was 40 yards away. She made it 15 before the voice came. Hey! She kept walking. Hey! I said hey! Reese stopped. Not because he told her to, because she wanted to know how stupid he was willing to be. Travis Cole stood under the one working streetlight with his arms crossed, scarred knuckles, dead eyes. Behind him, a lean man with a shaved head and the look of someone who'd killed people for money before. Ethan Cross. The second piece of the puzzle she didn't know yet. "You military?" Travis asked. Reese didn't answer. "You look military. We don't get many of your type around here." Silence. Ethan drifted left. Classic flanking position. Reese tracked him without moving her eyes. Travis stepped closer. "Town's not really a vacation spot. What brings you out here?" "Nothing." Got into a black SUV with an ironclad corporation sticker half scraped off the bumper. Pulled out of the lot without headlights for the first 100 yards. Reese watched them go. Memorized the plate, the tire pattern, the way Travis sat behind the wheel like a man following orders he didn't fully understand. Then she said something to herself that would have made her father proud. "Found you." The knock came at 6:20 the next morning. Reese was sitting on the motel bed cleaning her Glock when 3 sharp raps hit the door. She field-stripped the weapon, checked the firing pin, reassembled it in 4 seconds, chambered around, and walked to the door with the gun behind her back. She opened it 2 inches, safety chains still engaged. A man stood on the other side. Late 60s, silver hair, broad shoulders that hadn't given up despite the years. He wore faded jeans, a navy blue button-down, and had the kind of face that looked like it had been carved from granite by someone who believed in sharp edges. "Reese Harding? Who's asking?" "Jack Cordell. Your father sent you to find me." Reese studied him for 3 full seconds, looking for tells, micro-expressions, anything that said this was a setup. What she saw was exhaustion, grief, and something that looked like guilt. She opened the door. Cordell stepped inside, glanced at the Glock in her hand, nodded once like it was exactly what he expected. "You look like him," Cordell said. "Same eyes, same way of holding yourself like you're one bad decision away from putting someone in the ground." "You knew my father." 35 years, Gulf War, Somalia, half a dozen black ops you'll never hear about. Cordell pulled an envelope from his jacket. Red wax seal, unbroken. "He told me if anything happened to him, I'd know because you'd show up. And when you did, I was supposed to give you this." Reese took the envelope, broke the seal. Inside, a handwritten note on yellowed paper. "Reese, if Cordell is handing you this, it means I didn't make it. Jack Cordell is the best man I ever served with. Trust him with your life, because I did. He'll guide you. He'll advise you. But this fight is yours, not his. He's old. You're fast. Use his wisdom. Apply your strength. Find the red ledger. It's in my safe house. Address, 1447 Desert Vista Road, 5 miles east of town. Combination, your birthday, month, day, year. The ledger has everything. Names, operations, proof. Project Nightfall isn't just about weapons. It's about selling your team's deployment positions to the highest bidder. You deploy to Syria in 48 hours. If you don't stop this, every man and woman in DevGru Team 3 is walking into an ambush. Jack will help. But you have to finish it. Because you're stronger than I ever was. And this world needs more warriors like you. I love you, Dad." Reese's hand didn't shake. Not yet. She looked up at Cordell. "Project Nightfall. You know what that is? Your father told me pieces, not everything. He didn't want to put me in the crosshairs more than I already was." Cordell's jaw worked. "But I know this. Silverback Mine isn't abandoned. It's active, and the people running it killed your father because he got too close to something they can't afford to let go public. Who are they? Ironclad Corporation, private military contractor, but they're a front. Behind them is someone with serious DoD access, someone who can pull classified intel without triggering alarms. Your father spent 2 weeks tracking paper trails, bribing clerks, breaking into file rooms. Cordell paused. He found something in that mine, Reese, something big enough to get him killed. Then we go get it. Not yet. They've got that place locked down tighter than a submarine hatch. Patrols every 90 minutes, infrared cameras, motion sensors. You try to walk in there without a plan, you'll end up the same way Phantom did. Reese's eyes went cold. Then we make a plan. Cordell studied her for a long moment, the way a commander studies a soldier before sending them into a meat grinder. Your father said you were stubborn. He also said I was the best swimmer in BUD/S history. That true? Yeah. Good. Cordell moved toward the door, stopped. One more thing. Sheriff Hayes called me yesterday. Told me to tell you to leave town if I saw you. Said Copper Valley has a way of making problems disappear. What'd you tell him? I told him I'd pass along the message. Cordell's mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. I'm passing it along. Now let's go break into your father's safe house and see what he died protecting. The safe house was a single-story ranch home 5 miles east of Copper Valley, hidden behind a ridge of red rock and scrub brush. No neighbors, no witnesses. The kind of place you pick when you don't want anyone knowing you exist. Reese parked her truck a quarter-mile out and walked in on foot with Cordell beside her, both of them moving quiet, scanning for surveillance. The front door had been forced. Recently, crowbar marks on the frame, lock broken, clean off. Cordell drew a .45 from his waistband. Old school 1911, worn grips, the kind of pistol a man carries when he's been carrying it for 40 years. Reese had her Glock. They entered tactical, Cordell high, Reese low. Cleared the living room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. Empty, but not untouched. The place had been tossed. Drawers pulled out, couch cushions sliced open, mattress gutted. Someone had been looking for something and didn't care about being subtle. They beat us here, Cordell said. Maybe. Reese walked to the bedroom closet, pulled the door open. False back panel. She kicked it in. Behind it, a floor safe. She knelt, spun the dial. Her birthday, July 19th, 2000. The safe clicked, opened. Inside, a leather-bound journal, old, cracked, pages yellowed. On the cover, burned into the leather with a wood-burning tool, red ledger. Reese pulled it out, opened it. Page 1, a list of names, code names, operations. Sentinel-1, Mueller, Berlin Wall Ops, 1987. Sentinel-2, Kovic, Prague, 1989. Sentinel-3, Ramirez, Gulf War, 1991. Sentinel-4, Donovan, Sarajevo, 1995. Sentinel-5, Harding, Somalia, 1993. Sentinel-6, Cordell, West Germany, 1985 to 1990. Reese looked up at Cordell. Sentinel program, what is that? Cordell's face went gray. Cold War, CIA stay-behind operations. Sleeper agents embedded in Europe, Middle East. We were supposed to be deactivated in '91 after the Soviet Union collapsed. He swallowed. I thought we were. Reese flipped through pages. Detailed operation logs, arms caches, safe houses, financial routing numbers, dates going back to 1985. And then, at the end, a section written in her father's handwriting. Recent, last 3 weeks. Silverback mine equals Sentinel cache reactivated 2020. Weapons trafficking, M16A4 rifles, Stinger missiles, C4 explosives. Intelligence trafficking, DoD satellite feeds, sealed deployment schedules, troop movement patterns, buyer contacts, Eastern Europe, Middle East. Ironclad Corporation equals front. Real control. Colonel Richard Webb, DIA Deputy Director. Webb was our CO. Gulf War 1991. He activated the Sentinel cache for profit. Uses Ironclad as middleman. Project Nightfall equals sale of DevGru Team 3 deployment data to Syrian buyers. Extraction coordinates. Insertion timeline. Kill zone setup. Target. My daughter. Reese's vision tunneled. The words blurred, then sharpened. Her father hadn't come here for justice. He'd come here because someone was trying to kill her team. Kill her. Cordell's voice came from far away. Reese, you all right? She closed the journal, stood. Her hand was steady. Her voice was ice. We're going to that mine. Not tonight, they'll be... Tonight, she looked at him. My team deploys in 36 hours. I don't have time for caution. I need proof. I need names. And I need them before my brothers and sisters step on a plane to Syria. Cordell studied her, saw what her father must have seen every day. The warrior he'd built, the mission he'd raised. All right, Cordell said, but we do this smart. Your father was good, Reese, best operator I ever saw. But he went into that mine alone, and they put a bullet in his chest from 300 yards out. Then we don't go alone, and we don't get seen. Who else you got? Reese thought about Deputy Lauren Tate, the way she'd looked at the sheriff's office, the way she'd lowered her voice when talking about Phantom. I might know someone. They found Lauren Tate at the end of her shift, 1900 hours, walking out of the sheriff's station toward a plain Chevy Tahoe with county plates. Reese stepped out of the shadows. Cordell stayed back, giving her room. Deputy Tate. Lauren spun, hand going to her service weapon, stopped when she saw Reese. Miss Harding, you shouldn't be here. I know, but I am, and I need your help. I can't. My father didn't die in a hunting accident. You know that. I know that. The question is whether you're going to keep pretending because it's easier, or whether you're going to help me prove it. Lauren looked past Reese to where Cordell stood under a streetlight. Recognition flashed across her face. Colonel Cordell, you're supposed to be dead. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated, Cordell said. Lauren's mouth tightened. She looked at Reese. My uncle is the sheriff. He's not a bad man, but he's scared. Ironclad owns half this county. They've got contracts with the state. They've got connections in Carson City, maybe higher. You start poking around Silverback Mine, people disappear. Like my father. Yes. Then help me make sure his death wasn't for nothing. Lauren was silent for 10 seconds. Then she reached into her patrol car, pulled out a manila folder, handed it to Reese. This is everything I've been collecting for 8 months. Patrol schedules around the mine, shipping manifests, vehicle registrations. I couldn't do anything with it because I'm one deputy in a county where the sheriff won't ask questions. She paused. But you're not from here. You don't answer to him. And if half of what your father told me is true, you're the only person who can finish what he started. Reese took the folder. What did he tell you? That his daughter was the toughest operator in the Navy, that if anything happened to him, you'd come, and that when you did, I should give you everything I had and get out of your way. Smart man, Cordell muttered. Reese opened the folder. Inside, detailed patrol logs, ironclad vehicle movements, timestamps, gaps in coverage, a 42-second window every 90 minutes when the south perimeter went dark. This is good, Reese said. This is very good. There's something else. Lauren pulled a small evidence bag from her jacket. Inside, a deformed bullet. This is the round that killed your father. I pulled it from his chest during the autopsy. Ballistics don't match the rifle they found near his body. This is a .300 Winchester Magnum. Sniper round. 300-yard shot. Downward angle. Reese held the bag up to the light. The bullet had mushroomed on impact, but the base was intact. Enough for ballistics.
Why didn't you report this?
Because the coroner is on Ironclad's payroll. Because my uncle told me to sign off on the hunting accident report and stop asking questions. Because I'm one person and they're an army. Lauren's jaw set. But you're not one person. You've got Cordell, you've got training, and you've got something they don't. What's that? Nothing left to lose. Reese pocketed the evidence bag, looked at Lauren for a long moment. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. If you're going into that mine, you need to know what you're walking into. Your father went in 3 days before he died. Came out looking like he'd seen the devil. Wouldn't tell me what he found. Just said it was bigger than weapons, bigger than money. Said it was the kind of thing that ends careers and starts wars. Project Nightfall, Reese said. Lauren's face went pale. How do you know that name? My father left me a map. I'm following it. Then follow it fast. Because if Ironclad figures out you're Phantom's daughter, they'll do to you what they did to him. Reese smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a woman who'd been underestimated her entire life and learned to make it a weapon. Let them try. That night, Reese sat in her motel room with the red ledger open on the bed, Cordell in the chair by the window, both of them going over the plan. But something was nagging at her, a detail her father would never have missed. She flipped back through the ledger pages, past the Sentinel roster, past the Gulf War operations, to her father's handwriting from 3 weeks ago. Day 4, mine entrance heavily guarded. Ironclad security rotates every 6 hours. Infrared cameras cover main gate. Motion sensors on perimeter fence. Day 7, found drainage tunnel. South side, 200 yards from main entrance. Partially collapsed but navigable. Exits into lower shaft near old operations office. Day 11, observed weapons shipments. 3 trucks per week. Always night runs. 0200 to 0400 window. Day 14, confirmed intelligence cache. Servers in sealed vault behind ops office. Webb's name on access logs. Day 17, they know I'm watching. Black SUV parked outside motel last night. Time to move safe house. Day 19, found secondary entrance. Old ventilation shaft on North Ridge. Leads directly to Sentinel bunker. This is how I'll get the proof. Day 21, going in tonight. If I don't make it back, the ledger has everything. Tell Reese I'm proud of her. Tell her to finish this. Reese's finger stopped on one line. Old ventilation shaft on North Ridge. He found another way in, she said suddenly. Not the drainage tunnel Lauren mentioned. A ventilation shaft. Cordell leaned forward, read the entry. North Ridge. That's the opposite side from where Ironclad concentrates patrols. They're watching the south perimeter because that's where the drainage tunnel is. But if there's a ventilation shaft on the north side, then that's our entry point. Reese pulled out her phone, opened a satellite map of the area, zoomed in on Silverback Mine. The North Ridge was a steep rock face. No roads, no easy access. Perfect for a forgotten ventilation shaft from the 1950s. We'll have to climb, Cordell said. I've climbed worse. At night, in the desert, with no ropes? Reese looked at him. You telling me you can't handle it, Colonel? Cordell's jaw tightened. Then he smiled. I was climbing mountains before you were born, kid. Let's go. They didn't leave immediately. Reese insisted on waiting until 21:30 hours, when darkness was complete and the desert cold would mask their thermal signatures. She spent the intervening hours memorizing the terrain from satellite imagery, plotting waypoints, calculating exposure times. Her father had taught her that. Measure twice, cut once. In combat, preparation wasn't optional. It was survival. They drove to within a mile of the North Ridge, parked the truck behind a rock outcropping where it wouldn't be visible from the mine, and geared up in silence. Reese, Glock 19 in a thigh holster, 3 spare mags, tactical flashlight, multi-tool, phone in airplane mode for photos. She changed into all-black tactical pants and a long-sleeve compression shirt. Her blonde hair was tucked under a black beanie. Cordell, 45 on his hip, old-school compass, folding knife that looked like it had seen 3 wars, and a coil of paracord he pulled from his truck bed. Just in case, he said. They moved out at 21:30 hours. No moon, stars like diamonds on black velvet. The desert night was cold, the kind of cold that reminds you that deserts aren't just heat and sand. They're extremes. They kill you with fire during the day and ice at night. The climb took 40 minutes. Steep, loose rock, no marked trail. Reese led, picking handholds by feel, moving quiet. Cordell followed, breathing harder than he wanted to admit, but keeping pace. His decades of experience showed in the way he moved. Economical, no wasted motion. The muscle memory of a man who'd done this in places where mistakes meant death. At the top of the ridge, they found it. A rusted grate set into the rock face, half hidden by scrub brush and 30 years of neglect. The grate was old, bolted into concrete that had cracked and weathered. Reese pulled her multi-tool, worked on the bolts. 2 came free easy. The third was rusted solid. Cordell stepped up, planted his boot against the grate, and kicked. Once. Twice. The third time, the bolt sheared, and the grate tore free with a screech of metal that sounded like a scream in the silent desert. They froze. Listened. No alarms. No voices. No movement. Reese clicked on her flashlight, aimed it into the shaft. Behind her, Cordell grunted and swore under his breath, in a way that would have made a drill sergeant proud. After 30 yards, the shaft leveled out and widened into a horizontal tunnel. Old mining timbers shored up the ceiling. The air smelled like rust and old earth, and something chemical she couldn't identify. They emerged into a larger space. Reese swept her flashlight across the area. A bunker. Not a mining tunnel. A bunker. Concrete walls, steel support beams, a blast door set into the far wall, partially open, rusted hinges frozen in place. Jesus, Cordell whispered, this is a sentinel cache. Reese moved to the blast door, shined her light through the gap. Beyond it, a corridor. Clean. Too clean for something abandoned in 1991. Someone had been maintaining this place. They squeezed through the blast door and into the corridor. Fluorescent lights overhead, half of them still working, flickering like dying fireflies. The walls were lined with metal storage lockers, most of them empty, doors hanging open. But 3 lockers at the end of the corridor were closed, padlocked. Reese approached the first locker, examined the lock. Commercial grade, recent. She pulled her Glock, used the grip to smash the lock. It took 3 hits before it broke. Inside, M16A4 rifles, 5 of them. Cosmoline preserved, serial numbers filed off. Second locker, plastic-wrapped bricks of C4 explosive, enough to level a city block. Third locker, something that made Reese's blood run cold. Stinger missiles, 4 of them. Man-portable surface-to-air weapons capable of bringing down helicopters, transport planes, anything flying low and slow. They're not just trafficking small arms, Cordell said quietly. They're moving military-grade ordnance. Reese photographed everything. Serial numbers where they existed, lot codes, manufacturer stamps, evidence that would hold up in federal court if they lived long enough to present it. She took her time with each photo, making sure the images were clear, the evidence indisputable. Her father had trained her to document everything. In intelligence work, proof wasn't just about what you knew. It was about what you could prove in a courtroom where men in expensive suits would try to make you look like a liar. "Come on," she said finally. "Operations office should be deeper in." They moved down the corridor, past the weapons cache, through another blast door, and into what looked like an old Cold War command center. Radio equipment from the 80s, typewriters, paper maps of Europe still pinned to the walls, marked with Soviet troop positions that hadn't mattered in 30 years. Berlin, Prague, Warsaw, Budapest. The battlefields of a war fought in shadows and silence. And in the center of the room, a modern addition that didn't belong. Server racks, 4 of them. Blinking green lights. Hard drives humming with active data. Reese approached the nearest server, pulled up the interface on a small monitor. Password protected. But her father had taught her a few things about Cold War-era security backdoors. The men who'd built these systems in the 80s had been brilliant, but they'd also been creatures of habit. They'd used the same patterns, the same passwords, across multiple installations. She tried Sentinel. Access denied. Phantom access denied. Then she remembered something from the ledger. Her father's entry about Webb. About how Webb had been their commanding officer in the Gulf War. About the operation they'd run together in Somalia. Ghost Serpent. The screen flickered. Access granted. "I'm in," Reese said. Cordell moved to the door, kept watch while Reese navigated the file system. Folders, hundreds of them, organized by year, operation, client. She clicked through them quickly, her training kicking in. Pattern recognition, anomaly detection, finding the signal in the noise. She opened the most recent folder, project _ nightfall _ 2024. Inside, PDF files, encrypted communication logs, and a master document labeled DEVGRU _ TEAM 3 _ DEPLOY MENT _ SYRIA _ MAY 2024.pdf. Reese opened it. Her blood turned to ice. It was everything. Her team's complete operational package. Insertion coordinates, extraction timeline, call signs, comm frequencies, radio protocols. The layout of their target building in Raqqa, sniper positions, breach points, entry points for explosives, rally points if things went wrong. Everything an enemy would need to turn a surgical strike into a massacre. She recognized the format immediately. This was a real planning document pulled directly from classified DoD servers. The kind of document that should never exist outside of an SCIF, should never touch an unsecured network, should never be seen by anyone without TS/SCI clearance. And at the bottom of the document, a buyer confirmation code and wire transfer receipt. $2.5 million. Paid by a shell company registered in Cyprus with known ties to Syrian regime holdouts. Payment date, 3 days ago. "Cordell," Reese said, her voice tight, "I found it, all of it. Can you copy it?" "Already am." She pulled a USB drive from her pocket, plugged it in, started the transfer. The progress bar crawled. 20 seconds, 30. Each second felt like an hour. That's when the lights went out. Not just the monitor, everything. The server racks, the overhead lights, the entire bunker plunged into absolute darkness. Reese's hand went to her Glock. Cordell's flashlight clicked on. And from somewhere deeper in the bunker, a voice echoed. Calm, controlled, almost amused. "I was hoping you'd make it this far." Victor Kane stepped into the corridor, backlit by a flashlight held by someone behind him. He was tall, lean, 50-something, with the kind of face that had seen too many things and felt too little about them. Salt and pepper hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes like frozen lakes. Behind him, Travis Cole, Ethan Cross, and 4 other men in tactical gear, rifles raised, red laser sights painting the darkness like accusatory fingers. Reese counted angles. 6 armed men. 1 narrow corridor. Cordell behind her, .45 in hand, but outnumbered and outgunned. Math said they were dead. Training said there's always a way out. Kane stepped closer. Not threatening, just confident. The walk of a man who'd done this before and knew exactly how it ended. Your father stood in this exact spot 3 days ago. Had the same look on his face you've got right now. That "I've got them" look. Kane's voice was conversational, almost friendly. He was wrong, too. "My father got the evidence," Reese said. "I just copied it. Even if you kill me, it goes public." "Does it?" Kane tilted his head. "You think you're the first person to walk into this bunker with a USB drive and big plans? Your father tried the same thing. Died with that drive in his pocket. We pulled it out of his body, wiped it clean, and buried him in the desert like he never existed. Except I'm not my father. No, you're younger, less experienced, and just as dead." The sound of a man who'd had this conversation before and found it tiresome. "You two are making this harder than it needs to be. I'm going to make you the same offer I made Phantom. Walk away. Right now. I'll give you 24 hours to leave Nevada. After that, I stop asking nicely." "And our evidence?" Reese asked. "Stays here, where it belongs, buried with all the other ghosts." Reese looked at the USB drive, still plugged into the server. Transfer complete, 100%. She had what she came for. Now she just needed to leave alive. "I've got a counter offer," Reese said. "I'm listening. You tell me who pulled the trigger on my father, right now, and I don't kill you where you stand." Kane laughed. Actual, genuine laughter that echoed off the concrete walls. "You think you're in a position to make threats? I think you've got 6 men with guns pointed at me, and none of them have the safety off. I think you're not sure if I've got backup waiting outside. And I think you're scared." That wiped the smile off his face. "Scared? You wouldn't be talking if you weren't. You'd have already shot me." Reese took a step forward, slow, controlled, every ounce of SEAL training in her posture. "My father was a master chief with 35 years of experience. You needed a sniper 300 yards out to take him down. What makes you think you can handle me face to face?" Travis Cole shifted his weight. Ethan Cross's finger twitched near his trigger. The other 4 men exchanged glances. Kane held up a hand. "Stand down." He stepped closer to Reese. Close enough that she could see the lines around his eyes, the gray in his stubble, the old bullet scar on his neck. The kind of scar you get when you survive something that should have killed you. "You want to know who pulled the trigger?" Kane asked quietly. "Yeah." "Me. I did." His voice dropped to something like regret, something like pride. 347 yards. Phantom never saw it coming. 1 shot, clean, professional, the way a warrior deserves to die. Reese's world narrowed to a pinpoint. Everything disappeared except Kane's face, his voice, the confession. Her hand tightened on her Glock, but she kept it low. Not threatening. Not yet. "You're under arrest," she said. Kane blinked. "What?" "You just confessed to murder." "I'm a federal law enforcement officer executing a national security investigation. You're under arrest." "You're a SEAL, not a cop. SEALs have federal law enforcement authority under Title 10 when investigating matters of national security." Reese's voice was ice. You just admitted to killing a Master Chief during an active treason investigation. Now drop your weapon and get on your knees." Kane stared at her. Then he started laughing again. "You've got balls, Harding. I'll give you that. Last chance. Or what?" That's when everything went to hell. Cordell moved first, drew his .45, put 2 rounds into the overhead lights that were still working. Sparks rained down. Total darkness. Reese dropped, rolled right, came up firing. 1 shot, 2, 3. Muzzle flashes lit the bunker like strobes. The sharp crack of gunfire in enclosed spaces was deafening. Travis Cole went down screaming, hit in the leg. Ethan Cross returned fire, rounds sparking off concrete inches from where Reese had been a second before. Cordell grabbed Reese's collar, hauled her backward toward the blast door. "Move!" They crashed through, into the corridor, running full sprint. Behind them, shouting. Flashlight beams cutting through the dark. The sound of men who just realized they'd let 2 targets escape into a bunker they knew better than anyone. Except Reese had studied the ledger, her father's notes, the layout. He'd mapped every inch of this place, every corridor, every exit. She grabbed Cordell's arm, pulled him left at an intersection. "This way." "You sure?" "My father mapped every inch of this place. Trust me." They ran through corridors that twisted and turned, past empty rooms with decades-old equipment, through blast doors that screamed on frozen hinges. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew louder, Kane's voice echoing through the tunnels. "Lock down all exits. Don't let them reach the surface." Reese counted turns in her head. Left, right, straight, down a set of metal stairs into what looked like an old mining tunnel, pre-Sentinel construction, the kind of tunnel that predated the Cold War bunker by decades. And there at the end, exactly where her father's notes said it would be, a drainage grate, the same one Lauren Tate had mentioned in her patrol notes. The backup exit Phantom had discovered on day 7. Reese hit the grate at full speed, shoulder first. It held, locked from the outside. Cordell! He was already there, .45 out, aiming at the lock. "Cover your ears!" He fired once. The lock exploded in a shower of metal fragments. Reese kicked the grate. Once, twice. It flew open. They stumbled out into the desert night, into clean air and stars and freedom. Behind them, the sound of men in the tunnel. Close. Too close. "Truck's a mile north," Cordell gasped, breathing hard. "Can you run it? Can you? Just try to keep up." They ran. Through the desert. Over rocks. Around scrub brush. Lungs burning. Legs screaming. The cold air cutting into their throats with every breath. A quarter-mile out, Reese's phone buzzed in her pocket. She almost ignored it. Almost. But something made her look. Text message. Unknown number. "You activated your distress beacon 12 minutes ago. NCIS tactical en route. ETA 8 minutes. Hold position. Sa Morgan Reeves. NCIS." Reese stopped running, grabbed Cordell's arm. "What?" he panted, doubled over. "Help's coming. 8 minutes. Your distress beacon?" "I activated it before we went into the mine. Standard op procedure. If you're entering a hostile situation, you call for backup before you need it." Cordell stared at her. Then he started laughing. Actually laughing, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. "Your father," he wheezed, "would be so goddamn proud right now." Behind them, flashlight beams swept across the desert floor. Voices. Kane and his men, coming through the drainage tunnel. In the distance, the unmistakable sound of helicopter rotors. Deep, heavy, military transport. Reese pulled her Glock, chambered around, and turned to face the direction they'd come. "Cordell." "Yeah? When the helos get here, I need you to hang back. Let me handle this." "Like hell. I'm serious. You're a civilian. I'm active duty. If shots get fired, I need clean rules of engagement. That means you stay out of it." Cordell opened his mouth to argue, saw the look on her face. The same look her father used to get right before doing something that would either win the war or end very badly. "All right," he said, "but if they shoot you, I'm shooting back. Old man privilege." "Deal." The flashlight beams got closer. Kane's voice carried across the desert, surprisingly calm for a man whose operation had just been compromised. "Harding, there's nowhere to run. Give up the drive and we'll let you walk." Reese didn't answer, just stood there, Glock in hand, waiting. The way her father had taught her, never negotiate from a position of weakness, never show fear to an enemy who can smell it. The helicopters got louder, closer, the sound building until it shook the ground beneath their feet. Kane and his men emerged from behind a rock outcropping, maybe 60 yards out. 6 of them, rifles raised, tactical lights mounted on the barrels, all of them converging on Reese like spotlights at a prison break. She raised her Glock. 1 gun against 6 rifles. The math was bad, but she'd been bad at math her entire life. "Victor Kane," she shouted over the growing roar of the helicopters. "You're surrounded. Federal agents are inbound. Drop your weapons and get on the ground." Kane stopped, looked up at the sky, at the helicopters breaking over the ridge, running lights blazing, searchlights snapping on and turning night into noon. 3 UH-60 Blackhawks, full tactical package. The cavalry had arrived. NCIS had brought everything. The helos touched down in a storm of dust and rotor wash that turned the desert into a sandstorm. Agents poured out, 30 of them, full combat gear, rifles raised, spreading out in a textbook federal tactical formation that Reese recognized from joint training operations. A voice boomed over a loudspeaker, amplified and authoritative. "This is NCIS. Drop your weapons. Get on the ground now." Kane's men looked at each other, at the helicopters, at the agents, at Kane. The calculation was clear in their eyes. 6 contractors versus 30 federal agents with air support. The kind of math even idiots could do. Travis Cole dropped his rifle first, went to his knees, hands behind his head, blood still streaming from his leg wound. Ethan Cross followed, then the others, one by one. Kane was the last. He looked at Reese across 60 yards of desert, and even from that distance, she could see something in his eyes that might have been respect, might have been regret, might have been the recognition that he'd just been beaten by a 24-year-old woman who'd learned from the best. He dropped his rifle, got on his knees, put his hands behind his head. NCIS agents swarmed them like ants on a carcass. Zip-tied wrists, searched for weapons, read rights in voices that carried no sympathy, no emotion, just the cold recitation of the law. A man in his 50s, gray-haired, broad-shouldered, walked up to Reese. "Is that what I think it is? Evidence of federal arms trafficking, intelligence espionage, and the murder of Master Chief William Harding. Everything's on here. Names, dates, buyer contacts, financial records, server logs, communication intercepts." Reeves took the drive carefully, like it was a live grenade, turned it over in his hands. "Jesus, who's the primary target?" "Colonel Richard Webb, Defense Intelligence Agency, Deputy Director." Reeves's face went white, actually lost color. "Webb? Are you certain?" "It's all on the drive, server logs, communication intercepts. His name is on everything. File access, authorization codes, financial transfers. He's been running this operation for at least 3 years." Reeves looked at Kane, now zip-tied and being loaded into a helicopter. Looked back at Reese. "Miss Harding, do you understand what you just did?" I finished what my father started. No, Reeves shook his head slowly. You just took down a sitting DIA colonel. You just exposed a weapons and intelligence trafficking operation that's been running for 3 years. You just prevented your entire team from walking into an ambush in Syria. He paused. You just made yourself the most important witness in the biggest military scandal since Iran-Contra. Reese looked at Cordell standing 20 feet away, watching with something like pride on his weathered face. The old warrior who'd guided her, who'd trusted her to lead, who'd let her be the hero her father knew she could be. She looked at the helicopters, at Kane being hauled away, at the desert that had taken her father and almost taken her. Good, she said, because I'm not done yet. The interrogation room at NCIS Western Regional Headquarters in San Diego smelled like stale coffee and 30 years of bad decisions. Victor Kane sat on one side of a metal table, wrists cuffed to a steel ring bolted into the surface. His face was bruised where one of the agents had been a little too enthusiastic during the arrest. His right eye was swollen half shut. His eyes were tired but still sharp, still calculating angles even now. Across from him, Supervisory Special Agent Morgan Reeves and Reese Harding. Reeves had tried to keep Reese out of the room. Federal regulations, chain of custody, conflict of interest, all the reasons that made sense on paper and none in practice when you were dealing with someone who'd just taken down a major trafficking operation single-handed. Reese had looked at him and said 6 words: my father, my case, my interrogation. Reeves had let her in. Now she sat across from the man who'd admitted to killing her father, and her hands were steady on the table, and her voice was ice when she spoke. You've got one chance to make this easier on yourself, Reese said. One chance to show the judge that you cooperated, that you understood the weight of what you did. Kane smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who'd seen this movie before and knew how it ended. You think I'm afraid of a judge? I've been running black ops since before you were born, Harding. I've done things that would make your SEAL training look like summer camp. The only thing I'm afraid of is dying in prison instead of on a battlefield where I belong. Then help me give you a better death. That got his attention. His eyes sharpened, focused on her in a way that suggested he was reevaluating his previous assessment. What do you mean? You're going to prison. That's not negotiable. Federal arms trafficking, intelligence espionage, murder of a federal law enforcement officer. Reese leaned forward. But how long you stay there, what kind of cell you get, whether you die in Gen Pop or in protective custody with a view and library privileges, that's negotiable. In exchange for what? Everything, starting with the name of the shooter. Kane was quiet for a long time, long enough that Reese could hear the clock on the wall ticking, long enough that she started to think he might actually call her bluff, long enough that Reeves shifted in his seat, ready to step in. Then Kane spoke. His name is Marcus Hale, former Marine Scout sniper. Did 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. Honorable discharge in 2019. 217 confirmed kills in combat. One of the best long-range shooters I've ever seen. Kane paused. Ironclad hired him as senior tactical instructor, but his real job was cleaning up problems. Your father was a problem. Where is he now? I don't know. Webb pulled him off the operation after Phantom died. Syed Hale was too hot, too recognizable. Military snipers talk. Word gets around about who's good. Sent him somewhere overseas. Probably Eastern Europe, maybe Africa. That's where contractors go when the heat gets too high stateside. Reese looked at Reeves. Can you find him? With a name and background? Yeah. We'll issue a federal warrant, coordinate with Interpol, DoD databases, contractor networks. If he's in a country with extradition treaties, we'll have him in custody within 72 hours. And Webb? Reeves pulled out his phone, showed her a news alert from 20 minutes ago. The headline was stark. Pentagon official arrested in major corruption probe. Colonel Richard Webb, Deputy Director of Defense Intelligence Agency, taken into federal custody early Thursday morning on charges related to illegal arms trafficking and espionage. Reese read it twice, felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief, not quite. Something closer to the first breath after holding it underwater too long. They arrested him an hour ago, Reeves said. Federal marshals walked him out of the Pentagon in handcuffs at 06:30 this morning. Perp walk in front of every news camera in D.C. He's being held at a federal facility in Virginia pending arraignment. I want to talk to him. That's not. I want to talk to him, face to face, before the lawyers bury him in motions and plea deals and classified hearing bullshit. Reese's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. The steel in it was enough. He ordered my father's death. He tried to get my team killed. I earned the right to look him in the eye. Reeves was quiet. Then he nodded. I'll make the call. No promises, but I'll make the call. Kane watched this exchange with something that might have been admiration. You're just like him, you know. Reese turned back to him. Who? Phantom. Same eyes. Same way of talking, like the world's gonna bend to your will if you just push hard enough. Kane's smile faded. He sat in a chair like this 3 weeks ago. Not here. Different room. But same situation. Told me he was going to bring down Webb. Told me he was going to expose the whole operation. Told me nothing was going to stop him. What did you say? I told him the same thing I'm telling you. You can't fight the system from inside it. Webb's got 30 years of connections. Senators, generals, intelligence community leaders who owe him favors. You think one SEAL's daughter is going to bring all that down? I already did. Kane stared at her. Then he laughed. Actually laughed, loud and bitter and genuine. Yeah, you did. Reese stood up, looked down at him. You're going to testify. Against Webb. Against everyone. You're going to give us names, dates, operations, everything. And in exchange, you get protective custody and a recommendation for leniency at sentencing. And if I refuse, then you go to Gen Pop at Leavenworth, and I make sure every inmate knows you're a traitor who sold SEAL team positions to foreign buyers. See how long you last. Kane's jaw tightened. He looked at Reeves. She serious? As a heart attack. Kane looked back at Reese, saw something in her eyes that made him believe every word. The same hardness her father must have had. The same absolute certainty that she would do exactly what she promised. All right, he said finally. I'll testify, but I want it in writing. Reduced sentence for full cooperation. We'll see what the prosecutor offers, but yeah, reduced sentence for full cooperation. That's how this works. Kane nodded, leaned back in his chair, the cuffs rattling against the steel ring. Your father was right about one thing. What's that? He said if anything happened to him, you'd finish it. Said you were tougher than he ever was, meaner, more willing to burn the world down if it meant getting justice. Kane's voice dropped. He wasn't wrong. Reese didn't respond. Just walked out of the interrogation room with her father's ghost walking beside her, in a war still burning in her chest. The call came 6 hours later while Reese was sitting in a hotel room in San Diego, trying to sleep and failing. Her phone buzzed. Reeves. We found Hale, he said without preamble. Warsaw, Poland. Local authorities picked him up at a safe house based on our warrant. He's fighting extradition, but the Polish government is cooperating. We'll have him back stateside in 48 hours. Good. There's something else. Webb wants to talk to you. Reese sat up. What? His lawyer reached out through DOJ channels. Said Webb is willing to make a statement, but only to you. Face to face. No lawyers present, just you and him. Why? I don't know. But his lawyer claims it's relevant to your father's death. Said Webb has information that didn't make it into the evidence files. That he wants to, I don't know, clear his conscience or something. It's a trap. Probably, but it's also an opportunity. Anything he says to you can be used in court, and if he's offering to talk without counsel present, we should take it before he changes his mind or his lawyer talks sense into him. Reese thought about her father, about the letter he'd left, about the 3 weeks he'd spent in Copper Valley chasing ghosts and building a case that got him killed. When? Tomorrow, 0900, Federal Detention Center in Alexandria, Virginia. I'll fly out with you on a government transport. You'll be in a monitored room, guards right outside, cameras recording everything. Completely safe. I don't care about safe, I care about answers. Then you'll get them, one way or another. 22 hours later, Reese walked into a federal detention center that looked like a concrete fortress designed to hold people who'd betrayed their country. High walls, razor wire, guard towers, the kind of place where hope went to die. She went through security, metal detector, pat down, surrender of all weapons and electronics. They were thorough, professional, the kind of thorough that came from processing terrorists and traitors. Then they led her to a small room with white walls, a metal table, 2 chairs, and a camera in the corner recording everything. A single fluorescent light overhead. No windows, no distractions. She sat, waited. The door opened. Colonel Richard Webb walked in. He was 69 years old, silver hair cut military short, broad shoulders that hadn't given up despite the years. He wore an orange jumpsuit that looked wrong on a man who'd spent 40 years in uniform. His hands were cuffed in front of him, the chain between them rattling softly. His eyes were sharp, intelligent, the eyes of someone who'd spent a lifetime making decisions that got other people killed and justifying every single one. He sat across from Reese and studied her for a long moment, taking her measure, the way a commander sizes up a subordinate before giving them an impossible mission. "You look just like him," Webb said finally. His voice was gravel, old, tired, but still carrying authority. "Same eyes, same way of sitting like you're ready to spring across the table and put a bullet in me. I don't need a gun to kill you." Webb smiled. It was a sad smile, the smile of a man who'd lost everything and found peace in the wreckage. "I know. Phantom told me about your qualifications. BUD/S honor graduate, expert marksman, hand-to-hand combat instructor certified, youngest female operator in DEVGRU history." He paused. "He was proud of you. Talked about you every chance he got." "Don't." Reese's voice was a blade, sharp, cutting. "Don't you dare talk about my father like you knew him, like you cared." "But I did know him. 30 years. Gulf War, Somalia, Bosnia, Black Ops you'll never read about in any report." Webb's eyes went distant. "He saved my life in Mogadishu, 1993. We were pinned down in a building taking RPG fire. Building was coming down around us. He pulled me out, carried me 200 yards through hostile fire with a bullet in his leg." Webb's voice cracked, just barely. "I owed him everything." "Then why did you kill him?" "Because he was going to destroy everything I'd built." The honesty hit like a fist. No deflection, no excuse, no attempt to soften the blow. Just the truth, raw and ugly and unforgivable. Reese leaned forward. "Tell me, all of it. Why you did it, how you did it, every detail." Webb was quiet for a long time. Then he started talking. "The Sentinel program started in 1985. Reagan-era continuity of government planning. Cold War paranoia at its peak. The idea was to create hidden weapons caches across the US and Europe in case the Soviets invaded. Stay-behind forces, insurgency supplies. We built 20 caches over 6 years. Silverback Mine was number 7. And when the Cold War ended, the program was supposed to be deactivated, weapons destroyed or returned to DoD inventory, caches sealed.
The weapons were already there.
already paid for with taxpayer money. The buyers were already looking for exactly what we had. All I needed was a distribution network and plausible deniability. Ironclad. Yes, I recruited Kane in 2020, former agency, good operator, clean record on paper, no conscience when it counted, perfect for what I needed. In the intelligence trafficking? Webb looked at her, really looked, the mask slipping for just a moment. That was never the plan. The original plan was just weapons, small arms, explosives, Stinger missiles to governments and resistance movements we couldn't officially support. Kurds, Afghans, people fighting our enemies without American flags on their uniforms. But you expanded. Kane pointed out that we had access to something more valuable than guns: information, deployment schedules, satellite data, communication protocols. Webb's voice hardened. The kind of intelligence that foreign buyers would pay millions for, the kind that could shift the balance of power in regional conflicts. So we expanded the business model. Reese's hands tightened on the table, white-knuckled. You sold American lives. I sold information. What the buyers did with it was their business, not mine. My team, Syria deployment. You sold our positions to people who wanted us dead. For the first time, Webb looked away, couldn't hold her eyes. That wasn't supposed to happen. What? Your team wasn't supposed to be on the list. When Kane told me DevGru Team 3 was up for sale, I didn't know you were assigned to it. I didn't connect the name until Phantom showed up in Copper Valley 3 weeks ago, asking questions about Silverback Mine. So you knew my father discovered the operation. He called me, called my personal cell, said he'd found evidence of weapons trafficking at an old Sentinel site, said he needed my help getting it to the right people. Thought I could use my position to fast-track a federal investigation through the proper channels. Webb's voice cracked. I told him to send me everything he had, told him I'd take care of it, that I'd protect him. And instead you ordered his death. I ordered Kane to shut down the operation, move the weapons, wipe the servers, disappear the evidence, make it go away quietly. Webb looked back at her. Kane said Phantom was too close, said he'd already made copies of files, said he'd found the server room, said the only way to contain it was permanent. So you gave the order to kill him. I gave Kane discretion to handle the problem however he saw fit. He chose Marcus Hale. 300-yard shot, clean, professional, made it look like a hunting accident that would barely rate a local news story. Reese felt something crack inside her chest. Not her composure, something deeper. The part of her that had been holding on to the belief that maybe, somehow, there was a good reason, a justification, a way to make sense of why a man her father trusted for 30 years had put a bullet in him. There wasn't, there never was. You killed him for money, Reese said. I killed him to protect an operation that was funding covert actions the U.S. government couldn't officially support. You think black ops run on congressional appropriations? You think we can legally fund every mission that keeps this country safe? Webb leaned forward, chains rattling. I did what needed to be done, what I've always done, made the hard choices so people like you could sleep at night without blood on your hands. My father made hard choices. He chose honor. He chose duty. He chose to expose you rather than let you keep selling American lives to the highest bidder. And look where that got him. Reese stood, slowly, deliberately. She walked around the table until she was standing behind Webb's chair. He couldn't turn, couldn't see her, could only feel her presence looming over him like judgment. You're right, she said quietly. My father's choices got him killed, but they also got you arrested. They got Kane in custody. They got Hale on an extradition flight. They stopped Project Nightfall. They saved my team. They exposed you for what you are. She leaned down, whispered in his ear. So yeah, his choices got him killed, but they also ended you. And his legacy lives on in me. What's yours? Webb was silent. Reese walked back around the table, looked down at him. You said you wanted to tell me something, something that wasn't in the evidence files. What is it? Webb raised his cuffed hands, pulled something from his pocket. A photograph, creased, old, faded. The kind of photograph that's been carried in a wallet for so long, it's become part of the leather. He set it on the table with surprising gentleness. Reese looked at it. The photograph showed two men in desert camo, standing in front of a Black Hawk helicopter. Palm trees in the background, Mogadishu skyline. One was young, mid-20s, broad smile, dark hair. William Harding, Phantom. The other was Webb, younger, leaner, different eyes. Eyes that still had hope in them. On the back, handwriting she recognized as her father's. Mogadishu, 1993. Brothers for life. We walk through fire together. W.H. He gave me this the day he pulled me out of that building, Webb said. His voice was barely a whisper. Told me we were brothers. Told me he'd take a bullet for me if it came to it. That no matter what happened, we'd always have each other's backs. His voice broke. I kept it for 30 years. Every deployment, every mission, every hard choice. I looked at this picture and remembered that someone believed in me enough to die for me. And then you killed him. Yes. Why are you showing me this? Webb looked up. His eyes were wet. Actually wet. Tears he'd probably been holding back since the moment they put him in cuffs. Because I need you to know that I loved him. That betraying him destroyed something in me that was worth more than any amount of money or power. That I think about that bullet every single day and wish to God it had been me instead. Reese picked up the photograph, looked at her father's young face, the smile she'd only seen in old pictures, the brotherhood and loyalty shining in his eyes. Then she tore the photograph in half, slowly, deliberately, making sure Webb saw every inch of it, dropped the pieces on the table like verdict. You don't get to love him, she said. You don't get redemption. You don't get my forgiveness or my understanding or my sympathy. You get a cell and a trial and a sentence that ends with you dying alone in prison, forgotten by everyone who ever mattered. That's all you get. That's all you deserve. She turned and walked toward the door. Webb's voice stopped her, broken, desperate. Reese. She didn't turn around. He told me once that you were the best thing he'd ever done. Better than any mission. Better than the Trident. Better than 35 years of service. Webb's voice broke completely. He was right. You're everything he hoped you'd be. Everything he built you to be. I just wanted you to know that. Reese opened the door, walked out, didn't look back. The door closed behind her with a sound like finality. In the hallway, Reeves was waiting. You get what you needed? Yeah. What'd he say? Everything. It's all on the recording. Is it enough? Reese looked at him. It's never enough, but it's something. They flew back to San Diego that afternoon. Reese spent the flight staring out the window at clouds and empty sky, thinking about her father, about Webb, about the photograph torn in half, about the weight of betrayal and how it never really leaves you, just gets heavier the longer you carry it. Her phone buzzed, text message, unknown number. She almost ignored it, almost, but something made her look. Petty Officer Harding. This is Deputy Lauren Tate. Thought you'd want to know, Sheriff Hayes was arrested this morning. Federal charges. Obstruction of justice, conspiracy, accessory to murder. He's going away for a long time. Copper Valley is finally breathing again. The town is different now. People are talking. Sophia reopened the cafe with your father's picture on the wall. Thank you for what you did. For your father. For all of us. L.T. Reese stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed a response. Thank you for having the courage to help. My father saw that in you. He was right. You're exactly the kind of person this country needs protecting it. She hit send. Put the phone away. Cordell was sitting across the aisle, watching her with those weathered eyes that had seen too many wars and too many funerals. You okay? He asked. No. Good. You shouldn't be. If you were okay, I'd be worried about you. When does it get easier? It doesn't. You just get better at carrying it. That's not encouraging. Wasn't meant to be. It's just the truth. Cordell leaned forward. Your father carried that weight for 35 years. Every man he lost, every mission that went wrong, every choice that cost lives. He carried it all, and he kept moving forward anyway. That's what warriors do. We carry what needs carrying. I'm tired of being a warrior. Then take a break, mourn, cry, get drunk, punch a wall, do whatever you need to do to process this. But don't quit, because your father didn't raise you to quit, and the world needs more people like you who won't. Reese looked at him, really looked, saw the weight he carried, the decades of missions and memories and ghosts that walk beside him every day. What do you need, Jack? Need? Yeah, what do you need? You lost your best friend. You almost died in that bunker. You've been shot at, interrogated by feds, and dragged through a nightmare for 3 days straight. What do you need? Cordell was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. Sad, tired, but real. I need to go home, pour a drink, sit on my porch, and know that the man I served with for 30 years didn't die for nothing. He paused. And I need to watch his daughter become everything he knew she could be. No pressure. All the pressure. But you can handle it. You just proved that. The funeral was held 1 week later in Bozeman, Montana. Military honors, flag ceremony, 21-gun salute that echoed across the mountains like thunder that would never stop. Reese stood at attention in her dress blues, watching them fold the flag with precision that came from folding too many flags for too many funerals. Watching them present it to her with words that were meant to comfort, but never did. Watching the honor guard fire into the sky, each shot a punctuation mark on a life that deserved paragraphs, chapters, volumes. She didn't cry. Not yet. That would come later. In private. In the dark. In the moments when the weight finally got too heavy and she let herself be human instead of a warrior. But for now, she stood. Straight. Strong. Everything her father had built her to be. Cordell was there, standing off to the side in a dark suit that looked uncomfortable on a man who'd spent most of his life in tactical gear. Lauren Tate had driven 20 hours from Nevada, wearing her dress uniform. Sophia from the diner had closed the Copper Ridge Cafe for the day, made the long drive north, and in the back, wearing civilian clothes and looking uncomfortable in the sacred space of a military funeral, was Supervisory Special Agent Morgan Reeves. After the ceremony, after the flag was folded and the rifles were silent and the crowd dispersed like smoke in wind, Reeves approached. Miss Harding, Agent Reeves, I wanted you to know, Marcus Hale landed at Dulles this morning. Federal marshals have him in custody. He's being arraigned Monday morning. His lawyer says he's considering a plea deal. Will he take it? Kane's already cooperating. Webb's facing life without parole. Hale's looking at the same unless he gives us something valuable. Something we don't already have. Reeves paused. He'll probably take the deal. 25 to life with possibility of parole. He'll die in prison, but he'll die old. Reese looked at the mountains, at the place where she'd grown up, where her father had taught her to shoot and swim and survive, where he'd built her into the weapon she'd become. Good, she said simply. There's something else. Reeves pulled out a letter, handed it to her. From the Secretary of Defense. He wants to meet with you personally, to discuss what happened, to thank you for preventing a catastrophic intelligence breach. I don't need thanks. I know, but you deserve recognition. What you did saved lives. American lives. SEAL lives. That matters. Reese looked at the letter without opening it. Tell the secretary I appreciate the offer, but I've got 6 weeks leave and I'm going to spend it right here, where my father is buried, where he taught me everything I know. She looked back at Reeves. After that, I go back to work, back to the team, back to the mission. Reeves nodded slowly. Understood. If you ever need anything, I'll call. He walked away, left her standing there by the grave with the folded flag in her hands and the weight of 3 legacies on her shoulders. Cordell approached slowly, stood beside her, didn't speak. Finally, Reese broke the silence. He told me once that warriors don't get happy endings. They get completed missions and the satisfaction of knowing they didn't quit. He was right. Is that enough? It has to be, because it's all we get in this line of work. Reese looked at the headstone, fresh, new, carved with her father's name and dates, and a single line beneath, Master Chief William Phantom Harding, 1963 to 2024, faithful unto death. I'm going to keep going, she said. Keep fighting, keep serving, because that's what he taught me, that's what he built me for. I know, but I'm also going to live, really live, because he didn't get enough of that, and someone should. Cordell smiled, pulled something from his pocket, his dog tags, the ones he'd worn in the Gulf War, in Somalia, in Bosnia, and half a dozen black ops that would never make the history books. The ones that carried 35 years of missions, in memories, in ghosts. He held them out to her. He would have wanted you to have these, wanted you to remember that you're carrying 3 legacies now. His, mine, and yours. Don't waste them. Reese took the dog tags. The metal was warm from Cordell's body heat, worn smooth from decades of service. She could feel the history in them, the weight of 2 careers spent in service to something larger than themselves. She put them around her neck, felt the weight settle against her chest, next to her own dog tags. Thank you, Jack. Call me Jack. The colonel died in that bunker. Now I'm just an old man who wants to watch the next generation do what we couldn't. And what's that? Win without losing yourself in the process. They stood there for a long time, watching the sun set over the mountains, watching the shadows lengthen across the cemetery, watching the day end and knowing tomorrow would bring new missions, new challenges, new ghosts to carry. Finally, Cordell spoke again. What's next for you? 6 weeks, then back to the team. Reese looked at him. What about you? I'm going back to Copper Valley. Lauren asked me to help rebuild the sheriff's department, train new deputies, make sure the corruption doesn't come back. He paused. Figured your father would approve, finishing what he started. He would. And if you ever need me, I know where to find you. Cordell held out his hand. Reese shook it, firm, solid. The handshake of 2 warriors who'd walked through fire and come out the other side scarred, but standing. He walked away, left her alone with her father's grave and the memories and the weight. Reese knelt, placed her hand on the headstone, cold granite under her palm, solid, permanent, like the man it marked. I finished it, Dad, she whispered. Webb's in custody, Kane's cooperating, Hale's being extradited. The team is safe. The operation is shut down. Everyone who helped kill you is going to pay. Her voice cracked, just barely. I finished it. The wind blew across the cemetery, through the trees, over the mountains, carrying the scent of pine and snow and wild spaces where warriors go to rest. And for just a moment, Reese could have sworn she heard her father's voice. Not in her head, not in memory, but carried on the wind itself. I'm proud of you, baby girl. I always was. She closed her eyes, let one tear fall, just one. Then she stood, straight, strong, everything he'd taught her to be. She walked back to her truck, got in, started the engine. On the passenger seat, 3 items: the folded flag, her father's Master Chief anchors, Cordell's dog tags. 3 legacies, 3 warriors. 3 generations of people who'd chosen to stand and fight when it would have been easier to walk away. She pulled out of the cemetery as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, driving east toward whatever came next. toward the future her father had died to protect. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Captain Torres. Welcome back, Harding. When your leave is up, we've got a mission that needs your particular set of skills. High-value target, Syria. Payback for the assholes who tried to kill your team. Interested? Reese read the message twice. Then she typed a response. Yes, sir. I'm in. She hit send, put the phone away, and somewhere in the distance thunder rolled across the mountains. Or maybe it was a 21-gun salute for a warrior who'd finally come home. Or maybe it was just the sound of a storm brewing on the horizon, the kind of storm that sweeps away the old and makes room for the new. 6 weeks later, Reese walked back onto Naval Amphibious Base Coronado in full combat gear, ready for deployment. Her team was waiting in the briefing room. 12 operators who owed their lives to a woman who'd gone to war against a corrupt colonel and a private military corporation and won. They didn't salute. SEALs don't do that. Too much brotherhood, not enough formality. But they made room for her in the formation, front and center, where leaders stand, where warriors who've proven themselves belong. And when the brief started, when the mission parameters scrolled across the screen, when the target packages identified the men who'd bought DevGru Team 3's deployment data with the specific intent of killing American operators, Reese felt something settle in her chest. Not peace, not yet, but purpose. The kind of purpose that comes from knowing you're fighting for something bigger than yourself, bigger than revenge, bigger than justice. Fighting for the people who can't fight for themselves, for the warriors who died believing in something worth dying for the legacy that gets passed from one generation to the next, like a torch that never goes out. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. The last thing he'd said to her before she left for BUD/S training, standing on the porch of their Montana home, with the mountains behind him and tears in his eyes he wouldn't let fall until she drove away. The smile of a woman who just proven that honor still matters, that duty still matters, that some things are worth fighting for even when the cost is everything. Let's go to work, she said. They deployed 12 hours later, into the dark, into the unknown, into the kind of mission that doesn't make headlines because it's too classified and too dangerous and too important. The kind of mission her father had run for 35 years. The kind she'd run for the rest of her life. Because that's what warriors do. They carry the weight. They complete the mission. They don't quit. They don't surrender. They don't compromise. They stand. They fight. They protect. And when they fall, they make damn sure someone is there to pick up the torch and carry it forward into whatever darkness waits ahead. And somewhere in Montana, in a cemetery on a mountain where eagles soar and storms gather, a headstone stood silent guard over a warrior who'd finally found peace, knowing that his daughter was carrying the torch forward into battles he'd never fight, wars he'd never see, victories he'd never celebrate, but knowing, absolutely knowing, that she would fight them with honor, with courage, with the unbreakable spirit he'd forged in her through 35 years of training and love and sacrifice. Faithful unto death and beyond.